Hi, I'm Jefferson Drexler, and this is Parent Like You Mean It, the podcast where we talk about parenting with intentionality instead of just letting life run all over us and trying to cope with the disastrous results in the years to come. Now, before we jump in, do me a solid and like, comment, and subscribe to our channel. Whether you're watching this on YouTube or Facebook, Rumble, or anywhere else that we may be discovered, like, comment, subscribe, and even more importantly, tell a friend about us. Now, let's get to it. I love sports. I mean, I really love sports. I love playing sports, watching sports, talking about sports. I spend most mornings listening to 3 hours of sports radio and most evenings checking out whatever sporting events might be available on any of my TV service's 19 dedicated sports channels. I love the sights, the sounds, the smells of from taking my family to the ballpark, whether it's sitting alongside third base at an Angel game or sitting in a lawn chair at my son's flag football game. My addiction was most revealed early in the pandemic when I found myself watching replays of the 1977 MLB All-Star Game and collegiate level spike ball, and the only live sporting event that was available at the time, professional cornhole. In fact, even while I was coming up with this whole script, I was sitting there listening to professional ultimate frisbee. Now, as a football fan in San Diego, I really miss the days when the Chargers called America's finest city their home. As a Kansas City Chiefs fan, I really miss the days when I could make the short drive down the 15 freeway and see my Chiefs trounce the home team. To this day, New Year's Day 2017 still holds as one of my son's favorite days when we got to see our Chiefs wallop the Chargers 37-27 in what would be the final Chargers game at Qualcomm Stadium. And in hindsight, it may have also been the end of more of a sports era. It may have been the end of a societal era. You see, on that day, and for years and years prior till then, we could stand in a sea of powder blue clad fans decked out in our own Chiefs gear, rooting for our team at the top of our lungs, exchanging high fives with the guy 3 rows behind us who also happened to be wearing all red, and taking the ribbing from Chargers fans as the game kind of ebbed and flowed. The lines for hot dogs and beer were dotted with fans on both sides of the NFL aisle, and the pregame tailgating, oh, is that cool. And at the end of the game, whichever team came out on top, all of us filed into our cars, side by side, exchanging friendly, good game. And hey, we'll see you next time. We'll get you next time. My dad and I, we shared a similar experience at the Seattle Kingdom way back in the 80s when I wore my Angels gear into Mariners territory. My dad, he encounters this same rivalry-filled friendliness every time that he'd wear his Pirates gear to sit next to me alongside that third baseline down at Padre Stadium, or Petco as it's supposed to be known. In almost all sporting events, rooting for the away team is actually kind of fun. Except for when the Raiders are involved. Okay, I once had tickets to see my Chiefs play in LA against the Silver and Black when, luckily, a good friend of mine, a diehard Bronco fan, warned me against going. He said that he can't even start to calculate how much money was wasted on beer that was poured over him in his Elway jersey instead of consumed by the Raider fans in the seats behind him. Then again, maybe it was better that they had poured it down my friend instead of drinking even more, but we'll get to public drunkenness in a different episode. Anyways, all this sports nostalgia got me thinking about the 1972 presidential election. Of course, right? You see, leading up to the McGovern-Nixon decision, Richard Nixon promised to work toward peace with honor in regards to the Vietnam conflict. The more radical George McGovern, he wasn't making any such promises, but rather said that he would withdraw all American troops immediately, whether or not US POWs were released. As a wife of a recent Vietnam veteran, my mom voted for the Republican. Her dad, my papa, a dyed-in-the-wool, staunch Democrat, did not take kindly to his daughter's rebellion at all. And like those Raider fans that I mentioned earlier, Papa didn't hide his animosity toward the opposition. Papa didn't speak to his own daughter for 6 months after that election. simply because she voted for the other guy. And never mind that she had a new, and may I say, adorable baby, his only grandson nonetheless. Papa cut us out of his life for half a year because of that election. Now, he did eventually come to his senses, and it cost him. He showed up with a mink and cashmere coat in hand, and that was more compelling, well, I should say actually more compelling than that, was his sincere apology to my mom. And of course, she hugged him and all was made well. But my point is that we, as a society, more closely resemble my unapologetic papa and those Raider fans when it comes to today's hot topics than they do Charger fans or my mom. Gone, it seems, are the days when civil discourse was held with Evelyn Beatrice Hall's quote as its backbone, when she said, "I disapprove of what you say, but I will defend to the death your right to say it." In other words, you do you, I'll do me, we can discuss and even vehemently disagree, but at the end of the day, founded on our common decency and humanity, we'll be at peace with one another. But what if our perspectives are so diametrically opposed on life or death issues? What if we're at odds with the very nature of our societal systems, such as education or parenting or the economy and government authority? Well, in my mind, that's when I think of a quarter. See, on one side of a quarter, there's the bald eagle, our nation's symbol, with its wings spread, and our motto, E pluribus unum, out of many one. All of that is underneath the banner of the official name of where we live, the United States of America. These elements may be symbolic, but they reinforce what we are as a nation and as individuals, and what we've represented for over 200 years. We may disagree, but all of our various opinions are unified as one people. Then on the other side of the quarter, there's an embossed portrait of George Washington, our founding father, who gave his all in order to secure a future for our generation without tyranny. And he warned us of such division when he wrote, "It agitates the community with ill-founded jealousies and false alarms, kindles the animosity of one part against the other, foments occasionally riot and insurrection. It opens the door for foreign influence and corruption." And Washington went on. You see, as I think of where we are today, where I see family members refusing to even speak to their own parents, brothers, sisters, when I see neighbors and fellow church members spewing venomous rhetoric in the direction of those who dare disagree with them, I see President Washington's warnings. I see our call for unity as a country, and yet I'm also reminded of another founding father, Patrick Henry, who claimed the famously inspirational words, "Give me liberty or give me death." We ought to be free to non-violently disagree. We ought to be understanding enough to hear the other side without resorting to creating chasms between us. We are called by God Himself to, says in Romans, as much as you can, live in peace with all people. And it offends you that I quote the Bible in regards to all the tumult that we see in our schools, our neighborhoods, and our churches? All I can do is refer to one of the great orators of our time, the great David Putty. When Putty himself was confronted by his girlfriend, Elaine Bennis, and Elaine said, "Isn't it a problem that I'm not very religious?" But he said, "Not for me." "Why not?" said Elaine. "I'm not the one going to hell." Look, my point is this. Are we going to fall prey to Washington's warnings and allow our disagreements to cause an irreparable rift between anyone and everyone who disagrees with us? Or will we acknowledge that, if nothing else, we are all human beings, Americans even, with rights, freedoms, intrinsic value, and we are all worth fighting for, not against? And just as important, this is the behavioral pattern that I want to set as an example for my kids. It's what I'd like to see exemplified in other adults as well, so that our kids, all of our kids, will grow up with an understanding that people who disagree with us are not to be feared, they're not to be hated or even avoided, but to live at peace with, well, as much as humanly possible. And when we reach that breaking point beyond humanly possible, my hope and prayer is that at that very moment, someone extra human will step in. History has proven that he will. And all I'm saying, at that moment, you don't want to be the one going to hell. Well, thanks for watching. I'm Jefferson Drexler. This is Parent Like You Mean It. Again, please like, share, comment. Look forward to hearing what you have to say about this. And we'll see you next time.